Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into the story. Now, let's go back to Liam Parker, who's still processing the unexpected encounter. As Emma rushed out of the restaurant, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. Her cheeks were still burning with embarrassment, and she could barely process what had just happened. She had never been good with dates, but this was something else. Sitting at the wrong table, spilling out her life story to a complete stranger, and then realizing it wasn't even the man she had meant to meet. It was all too much. As she stepped out onto the chilly New York streets, she wrapped her arms around herself for comfort, the cool air doing little to calm her nerves. She glanced at her phone again, but the message from Kevin was still there. She had ruined the evening before it had even begun. What would he think? What did Liam, no, the stranger, think? Back inside the restaurant, Liam stood frozen for a moment. He hadn't expected to feel anything after the awkward encounter, but somehow, he did. He watched Emma disappear into the night, the soft hum of the restaurant's music still lingering in the background. He felt an odd mix of guilt and curiosity swirl within him. He hadn't meant to let her run off like that. She was just so different. There was something refreshing about her honesty, the way she spoke without a filter. He was used to the polished, perfect facades people put up around him, but with her, it was like breathing in fresh air. He couldn't shake the feeling that their brief conversation meant something. But what? The following morning, Liam couldn't get Emma out of his head. He sat at his desk in his sleek office, surrounded by glass walls that offered an impressive view of the city, but his mind was somewhere else. He had everything he could ever want. Money, power, connections, but what good was it? He'd spent so many years building an empire, chasing success, but it had all felt hollow. He hadn't even realized how lonely he had become until he met Emma. Her warmth, her straightforwardness, it was different, real. He shook his head as if to clear the thoughts clouding his mind. He wasn't about to go searching for her, was he? He barely knew her. But something inside him nagged at him, and he couldn't ignore it. Back in her tiny apartment, Emma sat on the couch, staring at her phone with a deep sigh. Her roommate, Jenny, poked her head out from the kitchen, a mischievous grin on her face. "So how was it? The date with Mr. Kevin?" she teased, walking over and sitting down beside her. Emma groaned, dropping her head into her hands. "Jenny, I just made the biggest fool of myself. I sat at the wrong table, talked to the wrong guy, and now I've probably ruined everything." Jenny's laughter filled the room, and she nudged Emma's shoulder playfully. "I'm pretty sure you didn't ruin anything. Besides, it's a funny story, right?" Emma rolled her eyes, lifting her head to glare at her friend. "I didn't sit at the wrong table, Jenny. I sat at the right one, just not with the right guy." She explained what had happened, her voice tinged with embarrassment, recounting how she had poured her heart out to Liam, believing he was Kevin. "He probably thinks I'm some kind of disaster. And, to be honest, I kind of feel like one." Jenny gave her a sympathetic look. "Okay, but listen to me, Emma. He didn't kick you out, right? He didn't make you feel stupid or awkward. He actually seemed kind of nice." Emma sighed again. "Yeah, but that's just it. He's way out of my league. He's probably just some rich guy with no real interest in me. I'm just a waitress who can barely keep her life together." Jenny shook her head. "You're not just a waitress, Em. You're way more than that. And if he can't see it, then he's not worth your time." Despite Jenny's words of encouragement, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had been left unsaid. She kept wondering if she'd ever see Liam again, and if she did, what would happen? Would he even remember her, or would she just be another girl he met by mistake? That afternoon, as she cleaned up her apartment and tried to push the thoughts of last night aside, her phone buzzed. A text message appeared on the screen. "Hey, Emma. It's Liam. I was wondering if you'd like to meet for coffee sometime. I know we didn't exactly hit it off the way we expected, but I think there's something worth exploring here. No pressure, just a coffee and a chat. Let me know." Emma stared at the message for a long moment, her heart racing. Was this a joke? He wanted to meet again? She couldn't believe it. After everything that happened last night, he still wanted to see her? She was hesitant, unsure of what to do, but something in her gut told her she should give it a shot. She quickly typed out a response. Hi, Liam. I'd love to meet for coffee. How about tomorrow? She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then, she sat back and waited for his reply, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. She hadn't expected this. Maybe, just maybe, things could be different this time. As she waited, she tried not to think about the fact that this wasn't just a coffee date. Something had shifted. A spark had been lit. And maybe, just maybe, this could turn into something more. She wasn't sure yet, but for the first time in a long while, she was open to the possibility. Stay tuned for what happens next, because what began as a mistake could just lead to the biggest change of her life. The next day, Emma could barely contain her excitement as she got ready for the coffee date. She had spent the morning overthinking every little detail. What should she wear? How should she act? She wanted to look presentable, but at the same time, she didn't want to come off as trying too hard. After a quick shower, she threw on a simple, but flattering dress. Nothing too fancy, just something that made her feel comfortable. She stood in front of the mirror, running a brush through her hair, reminding herself that this was just coffee. Nothing more, nothing less. But deep down, she knew it wasn't that simple. Something about this felt different. She couldn't shake the feeling that her life was about to change, and it made her nervous. She grabbed her purse and headed out the door. She arrived at the small cafe a little early, taking a seat by the window and watching people go by. The air was cool outside, and the streets were buzzing with the usual energy of New York. Her heart was racing, and she couldn't help but replay the events of the previous night in her mind. It had been such a mess, yet here she was, waiting for Liam to show up. The man who had been a stranger just 24 hours ago now had her heart in a frenzy. She wasn't sure what to expect from this meeting, but part of her couldn't help but feel hopeful. This wasn't just a second chance, it felt like something bigger. Was it just curiosity? Or was there something more between them? As she sat there, fidgeting with her cup, the door opened, and Liam walked in. She caught sight of him immediately. He was dressed casually, but with the same effortless style he had when they first met. His dark hair was tousled in a way that made him look like he had just stepped out of a fashion magazine, and his gaze quickly found her across the room. His expression softened when he saw her, and he smiled, making her heart skip a beat. He walked toward her confidently, but there was a nervous energy in his steps, something she hadn't noticed the night before. "Hey," he said, his voice warm and welcoming as he reached her table. "I'm glad you could make it." Emma smiled, standing to greet him. "Of course. Thanks for asking." She felt her nerves start to settle, relieved that he wasn't acting distant or cold. He seemed genuinely happy to see her, and that gave her a sense of comfort. They both sat down, and for a moment, neither of them said anything. It wasn't awkward, but there was an unspoken tension in the air, the kind that comes with a new beginning. "So what's it like being a tech millionaire?" Emma asked after a pause, trying to break the silence. She had been curious about him ever since their first conversation, but now that he was sitting in front of her, it was harder to keep her questions in check. Liam chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "It's not as glamorous as it sounds," he said, his eyes meeting hers. "Most of the time it's just a lot of spreadsheets and meetings. You know, the kind of work you'd rather forget about." He smiled again, and this time Emma found herself laughing with him. "That sounds kind of miserable," she teased. "I don't know how you do it." He shrugged, his smile lingering. "You get used to it. But honestly, I think there's more to life than just work. I'm just starting to figure that out." He paused, looking at her as if searching for something. "That's actually why I wanted to meet you today. I'm curious about you, Emma." Emma blinked in surprise. "Me? What?" Liam leaned forward, his gaze intense but kind. "I don't know. There's something about you. You're different. You're not like the people I'm used to. You don't care about the fancy dinners or the small talk. You're real, and that's refreshing." Emma felt her heart flutter, and she could feel a heat rising in her cheeks. She wasn't used to compliments like that, especially from someone like him. He had the world at his feet, and yet he was saying these things to her. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. Really seen. Before she could respond, their coffee arrived, breaking the moment. As they both took their first sip, Emma couldn't help but feel a shift in the air between them. It was subtle, but it was there. The awkwardness from their first meeting was gone. Now, there was a sense of familiarity, of comfort in each other's company. She realized that this meeting, this unexpected second chance, wasn't just about coffee. It was about something more. They spent the next hour talking about everything and nothing, Her dreams of opening an art studio, his struggles with balancing work and life, and the simple joys they both found in everyday moments. There were no barriers, no facades. Just two people, genuinely getting to know each other. As they finished their drinks, Liam leaned back in his chair, looking thoughtful. "I know we didn't start off on the best foot," he said, his voice a little softer. "But I'd like to see where this goes. If you're open to it." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had been trying so hard to keep her emotions in check, to remind herself that this was just a casual coffee, but now she couldn't deny it any longer. There was something real between them, something she wasn't ready to let go of. She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I think I'd like that too." And just like that, a new chapter began, one they hadn't expected but were both willing to explore. Stay tuned, because the journey of unexpected love is just beginning. The next few days passed by in a blur for Emma. She couldn't stop thinking about Liam. What started as a simple coffee had turned into something more, a connection, a spark that felt like it could grow into something real. They continued meeting for coffee, then dinner, then walks in the park, and each time, Emma felt more drawn to him. There was something magnetic about him, something she couldn't quite explain. He wasn't just a millionaire tech CEO. He was someone who actually listened. He was someone who made her feel like she mattered, something she had never experienced before. They talked about everything, her dreams of painting, his frustrations with his career, and the awkwardness of trying to balance their personal lives with everything else. He was real with her in a way that she didn't think was possible for someone like him. One evening, after they finished dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant in the city, Liam suggested they take a walk along the waterfront. It was a crisp autumn night, and the lights of the city reflected off the water, casting a soft glow across their path. They strolled in comfortable silence, the only sound being the soft crunch of leaves beneath their feet. Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known she was missing. Being with Liam didn't feel like a grand gesture or a calculated move. It just felt easy, like it was meant to be. "I've been thinking," Liam said, breaking the silence, "about what you said the other day, about how we're both just figuring it out." He glanced at her, his face a little more serious than usual. "You're right. I've spent so much of my life working to build something that I never stopped to really live it. I never stopped to feel anything, really." His words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Emma wasn't sure what to say. It was as if he was letting down a wall, showing her a side of him he kept hidden behind his wealth and status. She stopped walking, turning to face him. "Liam, you don't have to apologize for your life. You've worked hard for everything you have. But maybe you don't have to do it alone." He smiled softly at her words. "I don't want to be alone anymore," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. There was something vulnerable in his eyes, something Emma hadn't seen before, and it made her heart ache. She reached out and took his hand, the warmth of his touch sending a jolt of electricity through her. It was simple, but in that moment, it felt like everything. Like they were finally on the same page. The days that followed were filled with more small moments that meant the world to Emma. She found herself looking forward to every phone call, every text, every little note Liam would leave for her. And when he took her to a small art gallery opening one evening, she felt like they were taking another step forward, moving beyond the boundaries of their initial awkward encounter. At the gallery, Emma stood in front of one of the paintings, taking in its colors and lines, when she felt a presence beside her. She turned to see Liam standing next to her, his eyes studying her face, a soft smile playing on his lips. "You're good at this," he said quietly, looking at the world through different eyes. Emma smiled, turning her gaze back to the painting. "I think we all see the world in different ways. Sometimes, we just need the right person to show us how." Liam nodded thoughtfully, his gaze lingering on her before he spoke again. "I don't think I've ever really looked at the world the way you do. I've been so focused on what I can build, on what I can achieve. But I never stopped to notice the beauty in the little things. Like this." He gestured toward the painting, then to the space between them. "Like you." Her heart skipped a beat, and she felt the familiar warmth spread across her chest. "I think you're starting to see it now," she said softly. "And that's enough for me." They spent the rest of the evening wandering through the gallery, talking about everything: life, love, art, and the small things that made each of them who they were. As the night drew to a close, Liam walked her back to her apartment, his hand gently resting on her lower back as they made their way through the city streets. When they reached the door of her building, Liam turned to face her, his expression serious but filled with warmth. "I know we started this as something casual, but I don't want it to be that anymore. I don't want you to be just a part of my life for now. I want you to be a part of my future. Will you be that for me?" Emma looked up at him, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never expected this, not from him, not from anyone. But in this moment, with the city lights behind them and the weight of his words hanging in the air, she knew that something had changed. She knew that she wanted this too. She stepped closer to him, placing her hand over his, and smiled. "Yes," she said softly. "Yes, I will." And just like that, the two of them took their first step toward a future neither of them had seen coming, but one they were both ready to embrace. Stay tuned for what happens next, as love that started from a mistake transforms into something neither of them could have ever predicted. The weeks that followed felt like a dream to Emma. What had started as a simple coffee meeting had grown into something deeper than she could have ever imagined. Liam and Emma spent more time together, and each day felt like a new chapter in a book she never expected to write. They explored the city together, took spontaneous weekend trips, and spent quiet evenings at his apartment, talking for hours about their dreams, their fears, and their lives. Emma still couldn't believe that the man she had once mistaken for someone else was now a constant presence in her life. He wasn't just the CEO of a tech empire. He was the man who made her laugh, the one who listened to her with complete attention, and the one who made her feel like she belonged. It was more than she had ever hoped for. But even as things felt right, doubts began to creep into her mind. Was this real? Was this really happening? She was still the same girl from a small town, working as a waitress and struggling to make ends meet. What did she have to offer someone like Liam? She often caught herself questioning whether he saw her for who she truly was, or if he was just indulging in a temporary distraction. Those thoughts lingered in the back of her mind, even as she tried to push them away. The last thing she wanted was to ruin what they had built. One evening, after a particularly lovely dinner at one of her favorite restaurants, Liam walked her home. As they reached her building, he turned to her with an intensity she hadn't seen before. "Emma, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice a little more serious than usual. She felt a flutter in her chest. "What's wrong?" she asked, her brow furrowing in concern. Liam took a deep breath, his gaze searching hers. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we have. And I know it hasn't been long, but I don't want to keep pretending this is just something casual. I'm falling for you, Emma, and I want you to know that." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say that. She had been so caught up in her own doubts that she hadn't noticed how much Liam had truly opened up to her. She hadn't seen how much he cared. For a moment, she couldn't find the words. She just stood there, looking at him, feeling overwhelmed by the truth of his confession. Finally, she found her voice. "Liam, I don't know what to say. I'm falling for you too," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "But I've been so scared. I'm scared that this isn't real, that you're just doing this because you feel sorry for me, or because I'm some kind of escape from your life." Liam gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumb brushing across her cheek. "No, Emma," he said softly. "I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I'm doing this because I want to be with you. I want to build something real with you. You've made me realize that there's more to life than work, more to life than just building an empire. You've made me feel alive in a way I never thought possible." Emma's eyes filled with tears, and she closed the distance between them, wrapping her arms around him. She couldn't believe this was happening. She had spent so many years doubting herself, thinking she wasn't worthy of someone like Liam. But now, standing here in his arms, everything felt different. She felt like she was finally seeing the world for what it could be, a place full of love, hope, and endless possibilities. As they stood together in the quiet of the night, the world around them seemed to disappear. It was just the two of them, connected by something so much more than either of them had expected. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she could truly trust in something. Trust in him. Trust in them. The next morning, Emma woke up to a text message from Liam. It was simple, but it made her heart flutter. "Good morning, beautiful. I hope you slept well. I'm thinking about you." She smiled as she read the message, feeling warmth spread through her chest. Maybe this was real. Maybe they were exactly where they needed to be. That afternoon, Liam invited her to a charity event he had been planning for weeks. It was a black tie affair, and Emma felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had never been to an event like this before, and while she wanted to look her best, she couldn't help but feel out of place. But Liam was insistent, telling her she would look amazing no matter what. As they walked into the event together, Emma felt the weight of the room, the polished executives, the sleek gowns, the elegant atmosphere. But she also felt Liam's hand in hers, steady and reassuring. She wasn't alone, and with him by her side, she knew she could handle anything. At the event, Liam introduced her to some of his colleagues, but he never let go of her hand. It wasn't about the business deals or the charity work, although they were important. It was about the two of them, learning to navigate a world that was so different from the one they had started in. As the night went on, Emma realized that she wasn't just Liam's date. She was a part of his world now. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to feel like she belonged. As the evening drew to a close, Liam leaned in and whispered in her ear, "I'm so glad you're here with me." Emma smiled, looking up at him. "I'm glad I'm here with you too," she said softly. And for the first time in a long while, she truly believed it. Stay tuned as Emma and Liam continue their journey together, discovering what it means to truly live, love, and be open to everything that the future holds. As the weeks passed, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to deepen. They were no longer just two people trying to figure things out. They were becoming something more, something real. Emma's life had changed in ways she never could have imagined. She had always been the one to play it safe, the one who kept her distance, never letting anyone in too close. But with Liam, everything was different. She felt seen, heard, and understood. For the first time, she wasn't just a waitress trying to make ends meet. She was someone worth knowing. And Liam? He was more than just the tech mogul who could have anyone. He was the man who made her feel like she mattered. One Friday afternoon, as they sat in a small cafe in the city, sipping their drinks, Liam looked over at Emma with a serious expression. She could tell something was on his mind, but for the first time, it didn't make her nervous. She had learned to read him, to understand the subtle shifts in his mood. Stay tuned as Emma and Liam continue their journey together, navigating the ups and downs of love, family, and a future they never could have imagined. It had been a few weeks since Emma had said yes to Liam's proposal, and everything was moving faster than she could have ever expected. They were planning their wedding, and Emma couldn't believe how much had changed in such a short period of time. She had gone from a waitress in a small cafe to the fiancée of one of the most successful CEOs in the tech world. The whirlwind of emotions, excitement, and even a bit of stress had left her feeling like she was living in a dream. But beneath all the excitement, there was still that voice in the back of her mind. The voice that reminded her of where she came from, of the doubts that sometimes crept in, and the feeling that she didn't belong in this new world she was about to enter. One evening, as Emma sat on the couch in their apartment, going over wedding details with Liam, she noticed something different in his demeanor. He had been unusually quiet, his mind clearly elsewhere. He looked at her, his eyes full of sincerity, but there was something else, something Emma couldn't quite place. Stay tuned as Emma and Liam continue to navigate their love story, face challenges, and discover what it truly means to commit to each other for a lifetime. As the days passed, Emma and Liam continued to grow closer, each of them learning more about the other than they had ever expected. The wedding plans were well underway, but beneath the excitement and the hustle of choosing venues, flowers, and dresses, Emma couldn't help but feel the weight of her own insecurities creeping back in. She had never been in a relationship like this before, one that felt so real, so deep. Liam had changed everything for her, but sometimes she still questioned if she deserved all of this. The luxury, the success, the love. She had spent so many years believing she wasn't good enough, and now, with Liam, the life she had never imagined was unfolding before her. And yet, those doubts still lingered in the back of her mind. One night, as they sat together on the couch in their apartment, planning their honeymoon destination, Emma felt a shift in the air. Liam was excitedly talking about their trip to Italy, but Emma's mind wasn't fully present. She had been quiet for a few minutes, and Liam had noticed. Stay tuned as Emma and Liam begin their next chapter together, building a life full of love, growth, and new beginnings. The day of the wedding arrived, and the world seemed to stand still for Emma. The morning light streamed through the windows of the hotel room where she had been getting ready, but her mind felt like it was in a whirlwind. She had never imagined this day would come. She had dreamed of love, of finding someone who would see her, who would love her the way she had always wanted to be loved. But this was more than she could have hoped for. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she saw not just the bride in the elegant gown, but a woman who had grown, who had stepped into her own and claimed the love she had once thought was out of reach. Emma's mother, who had always been her biggest supporter, stood beside her, adjusting the veil. Her eyes were full of tears, but there was a proud smile on her face. "You're beautiful, Emma. I've never seen you more radiant." Emma smiled, her emotions too full to express in words. She didn't need to say anything because she knew, in that moment, her mother saw the transformation in her too. "I'm so proud of you," her mother added softly. "You've come so far." Emma nodded, grateful for the support and love from the woman who had always been there for her. The wedding ceremony was held in a beautiful garden, filled with flowers and soft light. Liam stood at the altar, waiting for Emma. He looked dashing in his tuxedo, but it was the expression on his face that made him look even more handsome, one of pure love and devotion. He had never been more sure of anything in his life than he was about this moment, about marrying Emma. As the music began to play, Emma took a deep breath and walked down the aisle, her heart pounding in her chest. When their eyes met, it felt like time stopped for just a moment. Everything else faded away, and there was only the two of them. He smiled at her, and she smiled back, a mixture of excitement and joy filling her heart. When Emma reached Liam, she took his hand, feeling the warmth of his touch, grounding her in that moment. The officiant began the ceremony, but Emma barely heard the words as her focus was entirely on Liam. He had been everything to her, her partner, her love, and now, the man who was going to stand by her side for the rest of their lives. The vows they exchanged were simple but profound. "I promise to love you, support you, and cherish you every day for the rest of my life," Liam said, his voice steady and full of emotion. Emma's heart swelled with love as she said her own vows, speaking from the heart. "I promise to be your partner, to stand by your side through all of life's challenges, and to love you with everything I have." As the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Emma felt a rush of joy and relief wash over her. She had found the love of her life. She had found someone who saw her, who loved her for who she was, and who was ready to share a future together. Liam leaned in to kiss her, and the world erupted in applause as they shared a kiss that sealed the promise of forever. It wasn't just the wedding that mattered. It was the love they had built together, the trust, the understanding. They had faced their fears, their doubts, and had come out stronger on the other side. That night, at their reception, as they danced their first dance together, Emma realized something. This wasn't just a beginning, it was a journey. The road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but as long as they had each other, they could face anything. The crowd cheered and clapped along to the music, but Emma was lost in the moment with Liam. She was home. She was where she belonged. The next morning, they woke up together, hand in hand, in the quiet of their honeymoon suite. The world outside was still, and it felt like the beginning of a new life. Emma looked over at Liam, and for the first time, she didn't feel the need to question herself, to doubt whether she deserved this. She knew she did, and so did Liam. "I can't believe we're really married," she whispered, snuggling closer to him. Liam smiled, holding her tightly. "It's just the beginning," he replied softly. "But I know one thing for sure. We're going to make this last, Emma. Together, we can do anything." And with that, their journey together truly began. A journey of love, trust, and the promise of forever. Stay tuned as Emma and Liam continue their story, learning, growing, and navigating life together, building a love that was more than either of them could have imagined.